In this video, I will share with you 3 signs that you're finally ready to heal, even if part of you still feels scared. I want you to know, after being in this healing space for 10 years, that readiness isn't perfection, it's willingness. After 5 years in 12-step rooms and circles, I saw it again and again. The people who change aren't the ones with the biggest rock bottom. They're the ones with a willing heart. So how do you know if you have one? First, you're tired of your own story. Now, if you've spent time around people who are going through something, this is such a noticeable shift. And it actually applies to all of us all the time, whether we're on a healing journey or not. There's a point at which we switch from wanting or needing to be heard and validated to wanting to do whatever it takes to heal or become more whole, including having our own perspective changed. Now, this is something that happens organically and it takes time. I want to say that for me, when I initially hit my rock bottom with my husband's disclosure of an extramarital affair, it was probably around 2 years before I really deeply was ready to shift out of repeating my victim story and my shock and just having my experience heard. And I want to be so tender with this because I don't want you to feel any shame at all. I don't feel any shame about that time because that was such a necessary, crucial time for me. That was my grieving time. And I just needed to be heard really as many times as I needed it. And it was really scary to be there because when I let myself really deeply feel all that grief and fear and rage and all the ugliness, it was so big, it felt like the bottom just dropped out, and I might feel that way forever. But luckily, I was in a very supported space. I was in a 12-step space with people who had been on the journey longer than I had. And they kept encouraging me, you've got to feel it to heal it. So I did. I really let myself feel all of it. And that was and always will be, I think, one of the bravest things I've ever done. And it's paid such beautiful dividends because eventually I was ready. I just knew I was, like on a gut level. And you will too. Eventually, you're just tired of the story and all the pain and the fear attached to it. And then you begin to be ready to face it. You're ready to heal. And when that happened for me, all that space that I'd given to feeling became the very tool and the very intelligence that transformed all that pain and ugliness into something else. Something very beautiful and precious and useful. And that leads me to the second sign that you're ready to heal. You're starting to get curious about your inner world. So that second sign is curiosity. You begin to notice yourself, your patterns, your triggers, your sensations with a little less judgment. And I was so supported on my journey that I can't say for sure if this happens organically or not. Because in my experience, this is something I learned to do in a much deeper way by surrounding myself with people doing it. It was like a skill I absorbed through osmosis. So you start asking, why do I shut down every time someone disagrees with me? Or why does this same dynamic keep showing up in my different relationships? And instead of beating yourself up, you start to just watch with compassion and you really want to understand. That is a huge shift. Because when you move from judgment to curiosity, you're no longer identifying with the pain. You're observing it. It creates this beautiful, needed separation. And that means consciousness is waking up inside the trauma pattern. This is where mindfulness becomes so powerful and becomes a living roadmap to your unique healing journey that nobody else will know except for you. You'll feel it out one step at a time. This mindfulness gives you the space to witness what's happening in your mind and body without running away from it. As Michael Singer teaches, you stop fighting with the voice in your head and you start watching it. And that's where all the information is. It's not really out there in some book or podcast or authority figure. Your specific roadmap to healing is written in your own mind, body, spirit. But you have to create the safety inside yourself for it to start to reveal itself to you. And that won't happen until you stop judging yourself. The compassion creates the conditions for deeper awareness, and the deeper awareness creates choice. And choice is what makes healing possible. Now, how does this work? Like when you feel yourself shut down, and instead of pulling out your phone and scrolling to just kind of check out, you get very still and curious and you just watch. And maybe you notice there's a voice in your head saying you're not enough. And instead of just blindly believing that and carrying it or unconsciously running away from it or arguing with that voice, you just feel it. You feel it in your body. You feel it like a cold ice block in your chest. And you notice how heavy it is or how sharp it feels, and you just breathe around it. And the breath actually helps your muscles start to relax around it. And then you realize you can hold that belief out at arm's length and say, there's that thought again. I'm not enough. Do I really believe that? Do I really believe that I'm not enough? What does my heart tell me? And you pause and you reach in and you reach up for the most vast, wise, spacious part of yourself, or for the divine, however you see that. And you realize you get to choose. You listen to what that larger part of you, or God, if that's how you see that, is communicating. And you can say, I reject that old belief. It's old and it's small and it's afraid, and I don't need to carry it with me anymore. I can actually choose to believe that I'm enough just as I am, that I'm a human being with strengths and weaknesses just like everybody else, and I'm here to learn and grow, and that's exactly who and what I'm supposed to be. I am enough. I can actually choose to rewire that old belief when I'm conscious with my brain and body, again and again, as many times as needed. Every time that belief comes up and I can feel its frequency in my body and I can hear that same old voice in my mind. And as you get more curious, something else begins to happen. You start feeling a real aversion to bullshit and feeling like a desperate hunger for truth. So the third sign is that you are craving authenticity and real connection. So in this space, you're no longer willing to pretend, to perform, please, or play small to keep the peace. You start wanting relationships that are real, conversations that are meaningful, and you start wanting a life that reflects who you actually are. That is the soul's way of saying, I'm ready. I'm ready to heal. I'm ready to come home. And this is really important. That doesn't mean you stop being afraid, because that part of you that's afraid will always be there. But it means your desire for truth becomes stronger than your desire for safety. And one step at a time, you begin to trust that you can handle the discomfort that comes with growth. And often this is where support becomes essential, to have mentors, community, or a guide who can hold space for you as you begin to live more authentically. Because healing rarely happens in isolation. It happens in safe connection. Now, if you recognize yourself in any of these signs, if you're tired of your story, if you're finding yourself curious instead of critical, or if you realize that you are craving truth more than the comfort of the status quo, then you're ready. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need that willing heart. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you have always been, who you were so much more connected to before the world taught you to disconnect from yourself. If you're ready to go deeper into your own journey, my book, Undone Unafraid, is a true companion for this journey of healing. It will walk right beside you through the layers of trauma, awakening, and embodied healing with clear guidance and a lot of grace. In the next video, we'll explore 3 signs you might not be ready to heal and why that's okay. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is honor your own timing.